Two things. Well, number one, ADPList has partnered with the UX Philippines Conference 2020 for a giveaway of 5 exclusive passes. Those winners are Michelle Locke, Felipe Dos Santos, Aga Oaks, Clement Jocelyn, and Jeanette Lee. I'm sure we'll be reaching out to you directly. If not, reach out to us. We'll figure it all out, right? Number two, ADPList has reached an important milestone of over 800 mentor reviews to date. That means at least over, yes, claps. At least over 800 inspiring conversations have happened worldwide. At least 800. I know that I'm still waiting on reviews myself. So that means a lot more conversations have been happening, just not people aren't writing reviews. Just go write reviews. Very beneficial for everyone. And now I'm going to introduce our special guests for the evening, the morning. I've got Joe and Rania here to do portfolio reviews, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Joe, kick us off.
Good morning, everybody, or good evening or good night, wherever you are in the world. I'm Joe. I am a mentor at ADPList. I've been doing design for about 20 years now, and now I'm running ACD at Experience Design for Havas, which is an agency here in New York, doing UX, UI, everything in between. And on the side, I just really love kind of just still being a designer, like an old school print designer, doing logos and business cards and marketing, because like you can't not love this job. Simple, sweet, just like me.
Love it. Rania.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Rania. I'm originally Greek, spent 10 years in London doing design. A year ago, I moved to New York, where I'm a design director with IBM Interactive Experience, everything from product design, user experience, user interface, and most recently design for artificial intelligence and machine learning. My background is all graphic design, human-computer interaction. I've been doing that over 10 years. And I truly believe in mentorship, and that is why I'm a mentor in ADPList. And I have the honor to have my mentor here, Stephen. So yeah, I genuinely believe it's a change. So thanks so much for having us. Thanks.
I mean, obviously, it's our pleasure, guys. We are going to now jump into portfolio reviews. This is what everybody's here for. I mean, I was actually here for the icebreaker. I thought that was fantastic. I'm just kidding. I learned so much myself from doing portfolio reviews, as well as getting mine reviewed as well. I feel it's an important part of growing as a designer to get feedback on your work, not only your work, but also how to express yourself in your brand. So it's imperative to grow and obviously become a better designer and human overall. So we're going to get started, and I believe our guests are going to share their screens and they're going to talk about each portfolio. They're going to choose them by random. So if you haven't yet, drop your portfolio link into the chat in Zoom, and we're going to get started. Rania, want to kick us off?
Sure. I literally just click one randomly, and it's, sorry, let's say my screen first.
Yes, please.
Okay, let me go for it. Okay, so we got Andrei Zhang. Apology if I don't pronounce it correctly. Andrei? Okay, so let me minimize this one. Can you see my screen first of all?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, well, hi Andrei. I'm just literally having a quick look here. I mean, first screen, I can see very strong like gray and this like kind of retro colors, I would say. That really caught my attention. I like the A on the left. I feel like you say, hi, that's my name, digital designer. Where are you based and what's your focus? I see that a lot, by the way, giving the introduction at the beginning. I like the intros. I just feel like here we have like digital designer title, then UI, UX, and then I see some illustrative, maybe something that's nice to be more, like if you do illustration to actually say that. I like that you have find me on LinkedIn, your resume. Let's click on that one before we move on. I know different people have different approaches. I usually, if I see a resume at the top, I'll just gonna click on it to get a brief idea of like, I see here like relevant experience. I see visual designer, UI, UX designer, graphic design, UX, UI design intern. And I do remember that your title, for example, was digital designer. So that was something like I would like to explore more to understand where is this coming from. Research experience, I see you're dividing the relevant experience, research experience. That's interesting. It feels like your interest in into research. Education, I see you have like cognitive science and programming, which is very fascinating, but I don't really see it here on the first glance, right? Skills, again, design, that's definitely like relevant to what I see on relevant experience, the toolbox and the programming. So very, very interesting resume. Let me go back, actually, sorry. Okay.
I want to say I definitely when I get to a page, I usually go right to the resume as well, because it's one of those things like you kind of for me also it's like a branding thing. Like I want to make sure that like the site and the resume kind of lock up together. But yeah, and again like you said, like the illustration is always great, because that's if you are an artist, like show it, like put that stuff forward, you know.
Absolutely agree. And it was at the top, to be honest. Sometimes if, you know, the landing page is like the portfolio, which I started doing here, right? I start scrolling. If it wasn't like so prominent, I would probably jump straight to the work. So it really depends also how you guide me. And here I feel like, here's who I am. Here's if you want me to take you out of the website and then bring you back, which is an interesting, you know, approach. Like I did, and I saw it was on the same also window. So it didn't took me to another window. That was like a bit, I think at the beginning was like, oh, where's the window? Just very details now, right? But now scrolling to the work, I like that it's on the same page. So if somebody wants to just scroll, you can scroll to your work. I'll just usually go in a high level, but again, that's, you know, sometimes also in a personal. So I see you have two here. So if I go, I see responsive e-commerce. Maybe it would be nice to also give me another, I don't know, I don't want to call it catchy name, but something what it is about. What is this about responsive e-commerce website? So for example, say here for Grace, Bukunmi, for example, which sells digital prints of her favorite book. Maybe something could be of that on the title to get a better understanding of what is it. You have the role, you have the duration, that's really good. Co-designer, maybe give some more details of like what exactly you co-design, because was it the UI, was it the UX on a first glance, right? And then moving down, I see the goal. Okay, so the goal could be maybe here, you know, role, duration, approach. Sometimes I've seen this before where they're really, you know, locked up together. The goal, you know, again, I'm usually scanning, you know, images, text. I see a good balance here. Research, you know, I'm just scrolling. Okay, you talk about the platform research, the market research. I see some screenshots. I'd like to see them maybe more into, you know, zoomed in, because I don't really understand what's happening here with it. I get just, you know, a snapshot. Design elements. And then you move to more like details. So from the research, we go straight to the design elements. I like the color scheme, by the way. I don't know if this is because of your website or because of the brand itself here, because it matches perfectly. So, and then I see you have a few iterations. I'd like to see those more zoomed in, because it feels like you've done a few iterations here, but it's really hard to see. If I click, it takes me to Figma. Okay. So if I click, it takes me straight to Figma, and that way I can, okay. So it's more of a like DIY, let's like open the source file. Okay.
Yeah, and with Figma, you do have the ease of directing to the prototype, which then also puts the focus on the work that you're presenting, which I think might be a little easier than having us kind of looking at your random files, because also then for us, it's like a lot of when you hire designers or hire UX people, it's like how you handle your file is so important. So unless it's like mad structured tight, like it could actually turn off an employer, because they're just like, oh my God, this doesn't have like a logical flow, or like, you know, if I had to pick up this file, like what would I get into?
Yeah, exactly. Now that's what I felt. I was like, okay, am I going to see, you know, some animations? So similar, exactly what, you know, Joe said, maybe more of like a prototype. You can somehow like have a link that I have no idea, just so, you know, the hand icon, and I clicked on it. So I didn't know what to expect really. The outcome, I can see though the flow you have. I mean, although I get like you start with the research, then with the design elements, maybe too early, then with the iterations, and then the outcome. There's definitely, I think, you know, a strong flow of like the research to this. Maybe add some more of, as I call them, like scrap work. You know, I don't know, more of the sketches, or more of like the, I don't know what you think, Joe. More of like the process, maybe being more linear.
Oh God, yeah. Especially with our field now, the idea of your process is so important, and the steps you took in between. And I'm still an old school guy. I sketch all the time. I have, notebooks on, much to the chagrin of my boss, because like she'll be like, yeah, we're gonna do this, and I'm like, I got sketches already, and she's like, we just had the meeting yesterday, and I'm like, whatever. But also with especially looking at your resume first, seeing how much research means to you, seeing insights not as much on the forefront, like when you go through the learnings at the top of like your competitive research, like what did you learn, and like highlight them a little bit, because I think that's also part of that process, like seeing like what you got out of it, because I think that's also very important.
That's a really good point, especially when we saw like its own like section research. I think that's something, because it really stand out to me that you've done cognitive, with the science and the development and the research. So maybe this is something you could really, put forward, and it could stand out here. And then by something to, prompt the user here, that like click here. I know you say it here, but maybe a button, because again, I kind of clicked it because I saw the icon and it took me to that new window. And before, when I clicked your resume, it didn't take me to a new window. So I don't know if you want to create some consistency there so the user know what to expect. Like in my case, I was expecting again to be on the same browser. So here I can see the final product. I get an idea, for example. But again, going back to here, like maybe some more of the process, because it's great you have the final product, but let's see more of the, the research itself. Okay, and then
especially when you have those great text links in the front, like you have them on the main page, like you're using the text links, you could use them throughout, and then it builds that consistency, like as like almost like an ecosystem. A design system isn't just for big companies; we can do them too.
Absolutely, no, fully agree on that one. And then let's try the second one. I see you have like two main cases here, so I would be curious to see like the mobile UX, similar thing here. Maybe we change the name, or like who's the client, or just to understand more of like, you say hats, for example, mobile UX, the role, duration. You have the link here directly. Maybe you could keep the same consistency with the other one, like website here, for example, take you straight to the website. Similar what you had before, the goal or the approach could all be bundled up here. I think, what's your role, what's the duration, and then what exactly did you do and what was the goal? I think this could really be your intro, your introduction. Like what is Hatch? And then I would really move on and say, okay, you have the final prototype here. Then you're adding the problem. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through while. And then we could see like, you have the analysis and some of the research, some of the user interviews, and then on the solution, sorry, I'm just scrolling while. Persona, the user flow, that's really good. Key screens.
I love these long form case studies, by the way. This is like, I will get like a glass of wine and read long form case studies from mentees like all day long. It's like the thing I nerd out, because again, like this is your process. This is all the steps you went through, and this is all the thought you had.
Absolutely. I think this is really good content. Same to you, Joe. Maybe the order of like here, exactly like you have the introduction, and here you get me the final prototype. I've seen both. So it's not like I've seen somebody who starts with a final revision, right? And says, here's now the process, or here's the process, and here's like the final product. I mean, I like the process of more of like what you had before, just keeping it probably similar, like start with the research, the user interviews, the persona, great, the wireframes, and then here's the visual elements, and here's the final design, the prototype. So I like if you keep whichever way you pick, for both projects, just to know what I expect. So, but definitely more good content here, and text and image.
It's also a great exercise in storytelling of, as much as we've seen or read books or seen movies that like start at the end and then you backtrack. Exactly. There is something to be said about like starting from the beginning, and especially with this type of work, like it's always fascinating. Absolutely. To see like where you started and where you got to.
Absolutely. And then I'm just clicking like on about, which says a little about me. Here, maybe more visual, I would say, like, break out a bit of the paragraphs, like your name. So here, for example, I've seen that often. So you say your name, you're a product designer, which you say, you like the visual UI, but if I go, you identify yourself as a digital designer. So I know I've seen that a lot. So it's just something to keep in mind, because sometimes it could be really just a tele detail, but when you really want to, land that job, some people are really like prescribed if you're a digital designer versus a product designer or like a visual designer. So that's just something maybe, make the connection.
We definitely have a overall naming convention issue as like a global
For
institution
sure.
of UX and design.
Exactly.
I still don't even know what to call myself anymore. I'm just Joe. That's what I do.
I had the same thing. At some point, I'm like, it's like, okay, it's like, this is what it's been called. And sometimes there are companies that use like those specific titles, which is different to the industry. So it's just really in that case, what you feel you want to place yourself as, know?
It's such a weird time for us to kind of find our way through.
So guys, we're gonna we're gonna move on to the next one. I appreciate that. Thank you.
As you can tell, we can talk about this stuff all day long.
All day long. I love the passion.
Thank you so much.
No, absolutely. Thank you. And again, it's really, really just those small like tweaks. Thank you so much.
Let's share my screen next. Where's my thing? There it is. All right, so here we got Jessica Naval. I don't know if I pronounced that right. I'm generally horrible at pronouncing.
Yes, you did.
Perfect.
All correct. Thank you.
All right. So again, like this is like I love the trends that we get to see, and especially as like I just grabbed a random resume from the chat, a random portfolio from the chat, but we get to see like the dark mode versus the light mode, and this whole. They both present so well, and it's so interesting to see the contrast, which this is actually a perfect indication. And and the good thing is like going from one to one, it's always, you see different contrasts of how people design, like how the last one had like all the items outside the box, creating a little bit of depth. Like you have everything really contained to the containers that they're in. I love a good opening sentence. I'm like a sucker for this stuff. Like you have no idea. So it's like, I'm on a mission to use design, empowering people. Like that's really like a bold statement that for what we do, it is a lot. It means a lot for what we do, for like, depending on what company we work for and how we do everything, like how it really affects the end user and what we do for them. So that's always a strong thing. Sorry, 1 second. My stupid Roomba's going off. It's great. You gotta love technology. Pause, robot. And this is the page. Like this is short, like a perfect short form page where we have our directions to go into. Like our two buckets are UX and content. But first, we're gonna drop into that resume. Oh, did it download? It downloaded. Perfect. So this will be.
Hey, Joe, would you prefer a download or a new tab?
I was just going to say, with websites, I prefer a new tab because then it doesn't completely take me out of the experience. But it's also a great place to, if you're going to have a downloadable version, add it to like an About Me page, or even if it is the same page, like a designed page, because this is the PDF. Having a download button within like the resume page. I'm using air quotes because it's still, but
yeah, I would say the same.
Oh, sorry, after you.
No, I would say the same. New tab, and then give the option to like download if somebody wants to download and file it. Absolutely agree with you, Joe.
Does anybody know how to get rid of the stupid Zoom menu at the top? And this is one thing like that, again, when we were just talking about like how your brand really is consistent across from one to the other. So if this is actually super clean, it's really nice. I really like the color of like the mint green through. And then it would be having that translate back here. Like that's the one thing like from a consistency standpoint that I always look for. But yeah, no, it has, and I like I've been really looking at how people bucket their resumes recently, and how an About Me section kind of really makes an impact, because this on its own is its own type of like representation of you. So it's everything that's on your site, you kind of have to sum up and say the same thing. So I think also that consistency, especially when you have a lead in, like empowering people, like that should be at the forefront of here as well, because it is such a great statement. You have experience doing UX design, project manager, UX designer, which sometimes we just fall into that role because we just don't have a budget for a PM and we're just super organized as a people. It's always a thing. And then interning and marketing. So it's like, this is also, again, we had a whole conversation in our icebreaker about how getting to that point of being a UX designer, you come from different areas, and it's very fascinating to see how what you've learned in the past really impacts your future. So deep diving into the happy abode. So, oh wow, this is still in the same experience, right? Oh, so this is actually a really nice layout. I've been seeing a lot of from a trend of case studies is this bold intro, using a type of imagery that relates back to the product at the top with like this, so like drained out color. So it just kind of really engages you. Cause right off the bat, I didn't know what Happy Abode was. And now I see the lawnmower, and this guy really, really has the lawnmower not big enough for his lawn. That looks treacherous. But it does really give you an idea of what we're going to be getting into.
For sure. And I see that consistency with the green. I don't know if it's by accident, but I see the mint on the resume. I saw the two green. So I don't know if it's just, your favorite color you pick as your palette or is related to the brands, but I see that kind of consistency. And then the imagery, a bit of illustration, right, John, a bit of typography. I see a mix there of like presenting the imagery itself.
This brings up a good question, because from the last one, it looked like the case study was branded to the project, and this one may be branded to the project as well. How do you feel about branded to the person versus branded to the project?
It got me a bit off, to be honest, because if you go back, on the main page, I felt there was a bit, it's like I see the color and I see the project itself, as you say, and then it shifts like to the person. I don't know. Usually I like having a consistency of like seeing the same image, like in a zoomed in version. I actually like having this at the top, unless it's made like research, unless you have like, 3 months or 3 weeks old research. I don't know. I again, that's personally like to see, okay, what the product itself is. To your point, Joe, in that case.
Yeah, I've always fought with that myself. Like, how do I brand a case study? Like, do I make it feel like where it came from, or does it make it feel like it's just mine? So we have that timeline, we have your role in it, and your actual responsibility within your role, which was great, your team and the tools you used. Which I think it's also interesting because this automatically creates a whole series of questions on the other side in my head of like, how did you like working with Adobe XD? Do you regularly work with Adobe XD? Because I know that's kind of like that outlier in the big three of Sketch, Figma, and XD. So is your problem? Oh no, your problem statement's right here. So this is also a great thing. Like I saw one too. There was a side navigation that kind of led you through. I meant to mention like just a little like descriptor on it on where each tab is. So if I want to navigate through, but I like always something that leads you through. So going back into like, if we bought a book, the first thing you see is that table of contents. So we have the problem, the challenge, which it's really funny kind of breaking these up into two, because we always have a human challenge as well as a design challenge. So we have to figure out the user, but then also maybe adapting to a design system, or having to kind of be inspired by like a third party part of the company. So that is definitely an interesting design challenge. So can you scroll in between these? Oh man, that would just keep me engaged for way too long than I needed to be.
The micro animations, can be very definitely. I'm
controlling these.
I love it.
It's wild.
I see at the top like the problem, plan, define, design, and I see like the line, which is pretty cool. So it's like you have the stepper there, but then I see some inconsistency of the content, and because we're talking about content also, right? You say like it's the problem, but then the plan but then I see the solution. So I don't know if there's something to be some like, okay, here's the problem, here's the plan, and actually take those steps, and the copy, right? Because we're talking also about content. That's just something that caught my eye. I don't know what you think, Joe, as well.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. And I was like wondering as we go through, like, is that going to be here? And then it's just a simple reorder of content. No, I think that's where it usually gets. And I think that's what we're getting to. So you started off with what the solution would be, and then go into the plan and the outcome that you're looking for. Yeah. And then we start going into the whole design process. So we're going to, define, I guess these are your personas. Oh, I can link to it. So it's so weird how PDFs work different all the time. One downloaded, one opened up in a Google Drive. But this is also good to have these to be able to be read, especially for you. So as you're presenting your portfolio to like a prospective job, like being able to show them like the work that went into, and you can pull the insights out of. Oh, would this also? Oh, I can zoom in and zoom out. That's actually a pretty nice little. I like the light box because it makes it feel very tactile. I hope Zoom is like really getting the in and out on that one.
Hey, Joe, I just love how much you guys are really just going down the rabbit hole in these portfolios, but we're going to move on to a third one.
Okay, we're gonna do it more high level.
Pick up speed.
No, I think it's all great and insightful, and I'm sure they're super grateful to have this. Just trying to squeeze in as many as we can.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, let me share my screen. I just scrolled up and clicked one because I don't want all the people that shared like 10 minutes ago get lost. So let me share my screen, and we got share. Hiroki, hope I pronounced that right. Okay, so let me do the same, Casey, like more in a high level. So first thing, I've seen that trend a lot, right? That here's the name, here's what I do. And then as Joe mentioned in the previous portfolio, some people have like a strong statement, empowering people, change the world, or more of like, hey, this is what I am, like versatile, observant, a lot of key punctual words. Data-driven UX designer, that is intriguing to me, the whole data design, to be honest, because I work a lot with data. Again, that could be personal or project-based, based in San Francisco. You mentioned the years of experience. So really in a line, I get, okay, your name, what you do, what you're really interested, where you're based, and how many years of experience you have, which is pretty good, to get that in 3 lines. Very clean, this minimal, light, white, and gray. You land me straight to work. Again, some people land to work, some people in resumes about, that's really also personal preference, or like depending on the job you're applying for. I scroll down, that's the first thing here. You promise to basically scroll down. I like the mini animation, like the small like satellite zoom in. And then, okay, I see both the LinkedIn. So it looks like you want to take me to LinkedIn. At this point, I'm not going to go the rabbit hole, but it feels like you want to get people into your LinkedIn profile. So let's click on the first one here.
And it's also an interesting thing of seeing people who present like a lead into a case study with the item on a device versus a lifestyle photo. Like it's like, especially at that tiered, like fanned out version, it definitely got me interested. So I think it's definitely not, I wouldn't say typical, but it's very interesting, everybody's preference on what they use.
For sure. And that's a really good point, actually, because I've seen like the product itself, and I see the difference between product design or visual designers. Visual really want to show off like, here's my visual design skills, versus product designer, here's more, I don't know, the UX or micro animation. So that's really interesting. The lifestyle versus, and again, there's no right or wrong here. It really depends, what profile you want to, so, okay. So in this case, again, you say place image of the product itself. I see a title, again, maybe subtitle, barn raises, platform, discover, food and community. Okay, so we're talking about something food and community. I see the challenge, the duration, team, your role. You see, like, again, very similar, but in reverse to other portfolios. 3 weeks, not sure about, I get this is more probably for the stylizing, but it's kind of repeating what you have here. Not sure if you really, really need that, space. Or for engaging information. So here's a lifestyle photo we're talking about. So here so scrolling from here, I'm kind of start getting what you're talking about. Is one of the 3 designers. You focus on the business and design strategy, user interface, and UI design. So here I see what you really do. And I always go back and say, okay, does it make sense? Does it really match with the role? Again, it's really, it's person's clients' portfolios differently. Then you jump to the solution. I see a few screens here, which, yeah, nicely placed, big visuals. And then, okay, very, a good way common, okay, how do you do it? Discover, define, design, deliver. And in this case, I'm just going through. Sorry?
Are those links? Like anchor links?
Yeah, anchor links. It's actually very similar. What in the bar we were looking earlier. I like that actually, that you can click from.
Oh, that's really nice.
I really like that interaction because you don't make me just scroll. You actually tell me, you know what? I just want to go straight to design. Boom, design. I really like that.
And it does for what jobs you're applying for, like what the person is looking for. It may be more research oriented. So you really want to see your research, or if it is visual oriented, you want to see visual. So it does give a great way to get people to knock around it.
I love those type of images. If this is actually, an image from the project itself, because then some people put like miscellaneous. I love those type of like, here's all the paperwork, I placed them, but in a nice kind of way.
If that is the actual picture, I love to see the stage
always
shot.
Always saw that too.
Papers out.
I always ask,
like somebody lay around you going like, what are you doing? Need it for the portfolio, man. Need it for the portfolio.
We've all been there. So I always ask, just FYI, if some people for you, I'm not saying this one, like if I can ask miscellaneous, I always like, are those pictures based, from the workshop you took, making sure they're like this. I'm not sure, like, doesn't look like, again, it's so how it looks. Maybe it's an actual one, a bit Photoshop, but making sure that all the pictures yours, even if the stage are the, again, preference, like, because I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask.
So one thing I noticed is the prototypes on screen scrollable.
Yeah.
Scroll back a little bit. I saw the wireframe. It looked like you started scrolling through it. I don't know if it scrolled itself.
It is actually. Yeah, I was scrolling the screen, but then if I scroll in the mobile, it is actually. And then, there's like.
This is the tools that we didn't have when we were starting out.
Yeah,
we had just
really
flats.
Cool. Flats. No, this is really nice. The micro interactions are really showing. And even like those ones here. I think I'm just not scrolling to understand if it's automated actually. Yeah, it is.
But that's also a great thing from like, it's the little tools that people know how to use from a hiring perspective. So it's like, if I know I need to do a pitch deck for a client, like I know you can handle dropping this in.
Exactly. And I love microanimation, I'll be honest, like even those subtle ones, like it just really grabs the attention. Again, it's preference, and then what's next? I really like the what's next part, the next steps, because there's so many projects that we put out there, and usually there's a whole story that it's not covered. So I actually like that what's next, or maybe something, I saw some of them like takeaways, learnings. I really like that part as well.
Yeah, understanding a person knowing how a roadmap for a product works is such a great thing to see, because when depending on the job you take, like sometimes in agency work, you have to get from point A to point B, but when you're in-house, you'll have the opportunity to build a 2-year roadmap with features and deep dive. And it's great to see, that section is there. Oh, is this a resume?
Yeah, I just literally click, because I know we've been talking also a new tab. This is actually a new tab, so I'm very happy to see that. It really matches also the design of the website, very minimal, the gray lines, black type, good spacing. I mean, I see similar UX designer, although on the website is UX UI designer. Again, we've talked about that. This is a global.
Yeah, we're working on it.
We're all working on it, but it's also always, just exactly pay attention, definitely. And here it seems like product designer. So definitely the data driven also product design is consistent. I really like the way, it's pretty clean. I know some people with the vertical typing, but this works because it's really, our dates. So
yeah, I think also with the dates, it's hard based off the content. So if you did the span, you'd either have to drop the 20 from it so it still fits in the space, like how if it's a shorter body of copy versus longer.
Absolutely. And I like that it's in one page, and you have everything, the contact at the top, great, education, tools, skills, awards, languages. I think it's very clean. It really matches with what we see here, to be honest. it doesn't need, sometimes a resume, I think we're over analyzing it, and it's still a resume that somebody needs to scan through. So
yeah. So I got a good question for you. How do you feel about the placement of education within a resume? Would you rather know how skilled they are, what they do, versus where they went?
I mean, I'm a person who has education in the resume, to be honest. However, I know a lot of self-taught also, designers that don't have like 5 lines of education. That's fine. So I'm okay. I think I like it if you want to place it there and I like that it's also on the side. It's not like at the top. Some people really put it at the top and then the work experience. And if there's no education, if it's a course, I think somebody could still say, okay, I have this online course, or, I'm self-taught. So again, I actually like it when it's part of the whole, because it just gives me an idea also, if you sift it, I've seen like education of like in science or biology, for example, so
yeah.
And then masters in design or whatever course.
Yeah, I definitely, I'm always torn on it, because I love the idea of seeing extra classes like after, like post education work, because that shows that you're constantly on that trajectory of trying to learn more and try to know more. And, but then I also want to be like, but do you do research? Like, can you do quant? Can you?
Yeah, exactly. And that's where, right? The portfolio comes in. It's like, okay, here's education, great. Now let's see the work. So that's really, I think, as you say, the balance there.
Such a preference. But that's the thing. That's where, like, as you design your portfolio and write your case studies and do all that, like, you don't really know who you're going to be catering to. They kind of have to fit like a general mold where they kind of hit everybody, but they may not. You never know.
For sure. And again, I think it goes down to the role. Absolutely. Like usually, like we have separated in our studio, for example, who looks at UX portfolios versus who looks at visual portfolios. And maybe then there's a combined, each place have a different way of how to look portfolios, of who reviews them. So that's really to know, as you said, Joe, like, okay, what is the role you're really applying for? So, have an idea.
Have case studies that are based off of different people, like for different, like case studies that highlight different parts of what I did, just so I have it.
Absolutely. Actually, sorry, I just clicked on another project. Similar. I really like the balance of, I'm just scrolling through like the text and image and the actual images here that I see. It seems like they've been, taking picture and then on Photoshop or Illustrator. So I really like that, the way they're presented. They're like the even match.
Look at those sketches.
Yeah.
Sticky notes.
They're amazing.
Yeah. They're really great.
Yeah.
So really good balance.
So as we wrap this one, any final comments or insights for this portfolio?
From my end, I would say the visual, it's there. I mean, it's more around the title content, and then just look at maybe the steps, making sure that, I see they're matching. So that's okay for me. It's really about, like I saw at some point there was like, I think the big type that I saw, like it's not needed. Sometimes like we put like a lot of decorative, like 3 numbers or anything, that I think that's, you have all the work here. I think that could be removed if I want to be more like tangible. But it's really clean in overall and clear.
Yeah, I agree. I think like all the pieces are here, just small reorganization of content and stuff like that.
Yeah. And last one, sorry, I just click on that one. I've seen that a lot. I'll be honest, I've never used it. I think this is exactly usually what I see people going for. Yeah. So again, it's an option, but even if you have just like your Gmail, like here on about, that could work as well. And
the only downside is you may get an influx of spam.
That's true.
So I got my next one all queued up. All right, I made sure my Roomba is off.
Take it away, Joe.
So we got, Miria, UX research and designer. So this is right away. My thought is now I'm going to get into some in the weeds, deep dive research that'll really get my challenge my mind and really get to learn some really cool stuff. I see these designs on the side. They slightly response in. Perfect. I like it because it's kind of breaking up the white space, but kind of like interesting. you have those words, curiosity, kindness, and get stuff done attitude, which is fantastic because that's what we really want to see. We need people who can get stuff done. And for anybody who knows me, knows that the term stuff is always changed to something worse. So great navigation. So it's either go to the work, go to about me. Let's go learn a little bit. So we have, again, that bold statement. Oh, you have the pronunciation here. Excellent. I should have looked at this first. Passionate about improving the lives of others through design. Fantastic. Like, I think it's, again, such an important thing to kind of know why you're doing this and what your passion is. This is like a full-on about page, which I think is, I'm starting to, as I'm getting seasoned in this field, getting to learn the person and who you are through your website is so important, because it's good to see the type of person you are, the type of interests you have, and you have there's the Gmail for more info. And where did we have the resume? I don't see a resume link on here. Did I miss one? Nope. So I think that would be the only thing I would say, is definitely have a link out on your about page to your resume, or a hot link to the resume up here, like just add it in as maybe one of the icons, or just a text link, just so we have a good idea of like how we can learn more about your professional work.
I agree. And sometimes I see it embedded, because I know we get that question often. It could be a link, it could be a new tab. And if you have it embedded, great, as long as it's there, that's a good point.
So it looks like, much of the conversation before, these look like they are branded to the type of work that they are.
Mm-hmm.
So
let's talk about that real quick, Joe and Ron. You want to, something that I found, I'm going to jump in for a split second. Something that I found recently that some portfolios were lacking was that hook, that introduction to their work of the thumbnail, the title, and a brief description of the project itself. I've seen several and many that were lacking that type of introduction page. What do you think about that? Is that beneficial or fluff?
Yeah, I think it came from the first portfolio we looked at, was that it's always good to have a high-end overview of what they're getting into, especially for when we are, like this one, there's UX UI design, research, branding, and then it's of kind of vague-ish intro, but it still hits really high notes. It's presence of a local acupuncture clinic during a global pandemic. So right away, I'm going to be like, oh man, how did they sell for COVID times,
Yeah, I agree. And Joe and Casey, that I find it valuable, like, because you give me, the name, sometimes the name does really have nothing to do with the product itself. So by telling me that, okay, this is design, this is research, this is branding, and here's 2 lines what it is, it really gets my attention and answers a lot of questions that, usually you can find 2 pages later. So definitely it's helpful to have that just one image. So yeah, definitely good point to highlight here.
So let's deep dive. And as you guys noticed, as we've been going through these, we've been kind of really going into the first one that you see. So as like, you always want to put the, time old phrase, put your best foot forward. So if you have a case study that is covering all the bases, has great visuals, has great content, like that should always be the one you push forward. We are going to scroll, goes without saying, we'll probably hit a couple of them, but it always is a good thing to start with your first one. And as you're looking, because as we scrolled through, I read the description of all 3 and I'm like, this one actually seems interesting. So again, going into what we talked about the last time, we got an image that kind of conveys where we are and where we're going. Always good to have the short version. Oh, this is a lot. The way this is broken up is very interesting, because it does have not only the role, the duration, and the tools, who you worked with, and the high level of what happened, which is what we've been talking about, is like how that process really works out. So it's nice. This is something that I've been seeing a lot too. Bolded sections of really what we want you to read. because case studies are wordy as hell. So if you can get my attention and get me to a place that I'm going to want to read, I'm eventually going to read the top and bottom, but it does kind of show what the areas of importance are. By the way, this is a good one to have today. This is a very soothing subject going into acupuncture. Responsive, always good to see different versions of it and how you treat, how a page works. Sometimes a lot of projects I've seen recently have really focused on how mobile first was important for the client. I don't think it's always a key thing. I think it really is based off of the subject matter, especially when it comes to like something like this with like booking and on the go and probably pushing people through social channels to the site to kind of set times. Oh, research, my favorite. Yeah, so this is those questions about how everybody kind of, here's the top takeaways. So the reason why it's so important is because when you're building something out, you don't want people to get to an experience that feels so different than the last one, because that might really put them off. This is, I will say, I like the way the copy is bucketed, because it's very easy to roll through. You can kind of scroll through and read and still get going. Ooh, stickies, these pop up. Right to, yeah. Again, all about process. So, we could read through, get the takeaways, and understand like what we're looking at. One of the things I always say when I'm looking at deep dives like this is like, put me in your seat. Like, as I'm reading your case study, like, let me know like what you did and how you did it and how, like, what problems you hit and how'd you overcome them as a team, and how you even, what your mark on it was.
Yeah, I also read the bold type, as you said earlier. I do that. Sometimes I'll just count the bold type, and I've seen a few, like in Medium or like blogs, they say 5-minute read or 10-minute read. Yeah. I challenge, all like read your own, like here, go through and see how much time did it take you through, like, read it all through or scan it, because that also gives you an idea of how much, another person will spend out. So that's really good to, see when you have a lot of content.
Yeah. Yeah. This is also like a site like this, knowing that this is so long form and there's so many parts to it, like that type of internal navigation is also so clutch to kind of get people through to where they need to get to. Because this is one of those things that I would definitely kind of sit into. Love a good pull quote, how people, either from the users, how they felt about it, how the client felt about it, something that, again, like as we're going through this story, like how do people actually feel about it? And I'm sure there's people that have plenty of stuff to say.
It's like
final words.
Reviews.
Yeah. You got final words. You got that, your final thoughts on it, which is always good, because it always shows that this is, I love this. Joy collaboration, especially with a client. Clients can be tough. Clients can be your best friend. It's such an important thing to have the mindset to kind of be able to do both and like work with them and like make them feel like they're part of the process. And as long as they're up for it and they want to go for it, that's always great. Oh, and but wait, there's more. Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of content there. Maybe there could be some of it, like I see some details, but definitely as we saw the other ones, like put it in sections. Maybe if somebody like wants to see define or the research or the design, at least get their eyes there. That, I don't know, what do you say, Joe? Like you've been scrolling as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and because that's the thing is I also never knew when it was going to end, mm-hmm. Like, which isn't a bad thing, but it was also trying to take my time. If I'm looking at portfolios for a job and I have to walk away from it, like I may not know where I'm picking up. By the way, I love the jazz hands thing. That's I used to say that to my team when we would do something good. I'd be like, all right, guys, jazz hands, and they'd just be like, they'd put their hands up. But yeah, Rania, any final thoughts?
I mean, that would be more of it. It's a lot of content that definitely some of it I think could be kept for the interview, because sometimes it's like, okay, if you give everything also in the portfolio, which people are not going to read, you want to make sure also, you keep a few, like, I guess, nuggets there. So more, I think it's really more of the navigation content, just a bit of balance there that I would say as a final note here.
Yeah.
But
100% agree.
it was great content. So
Fantastic. I want to thank our guests for reviewing portfolios today. But we're not done with you just yet. We've got some time for Q&A. Woo! So we've gotten some questions. I know, jazz hands. Yes. So we've gotten some questions. And again, feel free, if you haven't yet, drop your questions in the Zoom chat. We're going to be pulling by random. We got some questions in. I'm going to start asking them. And Joe and Rania, you guys just jump in and answer them. So question number one is going to be from Deb. Is it necessary to have a clickable prototype if there is a live URL of the product?
You want to go for it, Joe?
F you.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't hear that. Yeah, go for it.
I think it's always good to have. It's like one of those things. It's a nice to have. Like, especially now with the technology we have, you have an Envision account, you can just jam it into your site and it just will fit because they have the code. Sometimes it's like, why not?
Yeah, I will take it more of a probably high level. I agree with you, Joe. Why not? Definitely that one. On a step back, why would you put the link? If you can have it or whatever it is you want to spend the time to put it on the website and it looks good and smooth, why would you take me out of the experience? I usually say that, more in that now for all portfolios, right? A portfolio is like a trailer to a movie, right? You really want to hook them up to go see the movie. That's how I see it. Like you give them like literally have 3.5 minutes. How much is a good, like, if you think about like good trailer, you want to give it 4 minutes to actually hook them up and say, yeah, I want to go watch that movie. And I have questions about that. That's how I think it's just a general perspective of how, like, if you get them like on your LinkedIn or in a prototype, or you really like breaking that trailer experience. It just, again, that's, there's one thing you want to view it as like, this is a trailer to a movie, you want to get them, in, and then that's hopefully that helps.
I love that you kept with the narrative from the start about like a story or a book. I'm going to steal that just so you know.
Go for it.
100%. Your portfolio is the trailer to your story.
Love it. Trailer to your story. I love it.
Great.
So we've got a couple more questions if you can get through them. Excuse me. So number 2 is going to be from Sagana, and I apologize if I'm butchering your name. How do you balance long form case studies? Shouldn't we consider that hiring managers and designers may not spend more than 2 to 5 minutes, if that, on a case study?
After you on this one.
Joe, it sounds like you enjoy your wine and case studies.
No, to be fair, like it is good to have both. I think you're completely right. Like we don't have the time in our day sometimes to remember to eat lunch. So spending a lot of time reading a case study is definitely a lot. So I would definitely, it's good to keep it short, but you have to make sure you have the correct information in there. Like as you saw throughout all the portfolio examples we had, the first one had tight content and it just needed just a little more. It's almost like Goldilocks. Like this one's too long, this one's too short, this one's just right. So it's like you gotta find that happy middle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say depends. There are some cases, right, there are students that they don't know what they're looking for until they see something they like. So this is more, I think, the most exploratory. The evening, I have like 30 portfolios to watch, but there's no deadline. And I've seen myself when I review portfolios like that, I can take more time, there's no like, oh, we need somebody like by next month, versus what I have like from the HR, here's 50 portfolios to review in 3 hours, like 4 hours, and give us back your top 5. Because that's the reality after some point, of like, okay, we're looking for a UI designer, a UX designer. So again, it really depends, right? The company or the place. So that's where I generally have 4 minutes to go through and short list. So it really depends the case. To your point, Joel, there's times I spend 4 minutes. There's times I might spend literally like 15 minutes, depending of, and again, it's a trailer, right? The movie could be good, the movie could be bad, but you need to get me to the movie.
Actually, now that I think about it, I just recently looked at a portfolio from somebody that I met through ADPList, and they put in a button that shrunk the content down. They had like the TLDR button, and that was my favorite part of it. I clicked on it, it shrunk the information super tight, and I was like,
"That's cool!
Oh, holy crap, this is genius!" And it was like, because it is. Like you're saying, like if you have time, let's read the rest of it. If not, like let's get to the point.
Exactly.
I like that. So for our third question, it's going to be from Ria. For design projects which are around highly technical topics, for example, helping devs make APIs smoother, how would you suggest the storytelling to be modified to help hiring managers understand the topic itself?
So for me, part of our job is to, as a piece of our job, is to be able to talk technical to people who aren't technical. Like in our process within a company, we're going to be talking to so many different people. So it's a good skill to have to kind of, I don't want to use the term dumb it down because it's so negative, but like make it easy to digest. And I think it's a good skill to have to get it. Like stuff like API calls and that technical information, like you have to have a very specific person that'll understand it. So if you kind of make it a little more high level of like worked with dev to, pull in content to create this final product, like it may be a little easier to get by. If you want to do like a deep dive somewhere else, like maybe like a little info box that pops up and be like, hey, here's all the tech information for the people who'd be interested. But it is hard to make that stuff for universally understandable unless they're in that realm.
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. And I agree with you, Joe. I'm actually currently working with a project, literally all with engineers, data scientists, and machine learning. And I had to relearn probably everything. And I still don't understand half of what they do. So it's how do you translate that, for example, to my design team, to other designers? And I think what has helped a lot is simplify, the language as much as you can, sit with engineers, the developers to simplify that for you. And then maybe to a fellow designer or a colleague to see, really user test it if they understand, the message, because in the end, it's really a message you're trying to get across. If you want to get really to the specifics, for example, of an AI, think about the audience. Are you going to talk with a tech lead or somebody who interested in the whole development design, or you're talking to a design director that cares, for example, only about design or business? So, but simplifying the language as much as I can, it's been also a challenge for me of communicating that part. So definitely recommend try it with other people.
Yeah, and you can also go deep dive on the tech part, like if you're in an interview process,
Absolutely.
What else you got?
So we've got, I think, time for one more, and I think this is going to be definitely more of something that's pretty of a hot topic in the last few years. So let's talk about transitioning, right, from another field to user experience, digital design. What are some strategies people who are transitioning from a lateral position instead of a complete transition, like graphic design to UI UX or product design, can employ in landing their first gig, especially right now in this COVID climate and as a boot camp graduate? Let me finish with, seems like a lot of positions are looking for more intermediate roles versus junior roles. Tough one, I know.
See, so here's the thing. This is the question I literally get the start of every ADPList mentor session. There's good news and bad news. Good news is the market is still very hot for us. Like people are now, especially in the COVID times, understand that their user experience and their web presence is so much more important, especially knowing that we are all trapped indoors. So I think the little issue that we're having is, I love hiring juniors personally because I love the idea of bringing somebody in, letting them learn, and because you guys are still hungry out the gate to learn stuff and move them forward. I think also some of the issue is with some of the job postings saying I need a junior person that has 5 years experience. that's not a junior person.
Yeah.
So I know you guys will read that and be like, well, I don't have 5 years experience. Why are they asking for a junior? So that's kind of, I'm finding that sometimes that's the shift between somebody saying, hey, we need to hire a UX designer, and then another person who's doing the job posting saying, okay, I'm going to cut and paste this one from like last year and put it in there, and the job may not even match. So always, if you are transitioning from one to another, don't feel like you are not, like, all the experience you have before, and we've seen it in one of the resumes we looked at today, all that experience is so worth something. Because if I get a normal junior fresh out of college, like right out of high school, right out of college, and they're the UX designer, they don't know how to navigate a business. They don't know how to, may not know how to present to a room full of people. If you've already been in been working for years, you have those soft skills pre-built in, which are such a huge benefit. So just keep applying, keep grinding. Like, that's the thing, is that, you know, make sure you reach out to network. Networking is always a thing. The ADP list, I've tried to help people get jobs wherever I could, because I speak to them, I know who they are, and it's different than what you are on a piece of paper. So I think that's such a bigger thing. Rania, I don't know if you have a...
No, I agree with all those points, especially the fact that they're asking for a junior design 5 years. Like, even when I was starting, like, really? When shall I start? Like 13 or whatever. Some people do start. There are some superstars, but still, definitely agree with that point. I might take a more rational approach in the whole, first of all, separating a bit the UX and visual design, because I know we have this UI, UX and the trend, great. But I come from a graphic design, so maybe that's why we're biased, but I feel a visual designer needs to have that skill set, the talent, the eye, the practice, the whatever you want to call, to be a visual designer, versus a UX designer, which we can see also more common transition. I want to be honest. I see very rare transition to visual design, because you need to have that skill set and craft, right? Versus UX, which is, of course, you know, learn, understand the experience, strategy is another skill set. You don't need that visual, like, talent eye, we call. So I want to separate the two, first of all, and I do see the transition more into the UX, which is, you know, and I've seen it from business, I've seen it from science, I've seen it from development. So I don't think there are any restrictions, as long as you generally want. Why you want to do that? Is it because it's a buzzword and there's a job out there? Yes, okay, but how far really are you going to push through if you don't really like it? That's one thing. Two, is it because you're always interested? I have so many stories of so many people in backgrounds, and I've seen successful transitions. The reason they're not so many, I guess, because a lot of people do fall in the buzzword, right? And not because they truly believe in it. If I want to be very, you know, honest. So definitely it happens. I've seen that, and with my team and other teams. But you really need, I think, to be, you know, to your point, you're like committed. Is it like through a boot camp or everything? And to the point with the whole junior intermediate, I have some amazing also junior designers that really could surpass senior designers. Yes, the title is good, it's the experience, but really you can see a lot of like this imbalance, and I wouldn't get, you know, always stuck in the title. So as you said, Joe, like, there are some of the best designers. I worked 2 years and they're really like on the spot, on the go, and they're killing it, you know? And I believe that if you want to go faster, go faster. So you want to be in a place that you can, they can let you do that.
I have definitely told some junior designers, like, when I'm old and crusty and need a job, don't forget about me.
Right? We're learning other skills, right? We go to the leadership, we go people manage, we do like the craft, unfortunately, at some point is not like 100%. So the more you have it at the beginning, like the more you grind in the beginning, the better. So I wouldn't worry the level. And if something is higher, like in medium, and you think you're junior, go for it. Like, just go for it. Just go for it. That's the takeaway from today. Just go for it. I've always told my mentees that, like, I can't do this forever, nor do I really want to. So I'm going to need some folks to replace me along the way. So like, keep grinding, keep working really hard, and, you know, put in the blood, sweat, and tears. So we're going to move on to now our signature selfie time. I believe Felix is going to take this over, and then we'll have some announcements and we'll be done.
Right.
Woo! Awesome.
Wow, Casey, surprising that the moment that you said selfie, a lot of people left the call, guys. Don't be shy, come on.
Oh, it's okay. It's all right.
Everything's going up social media. So if you guys are here, turn on your camera. Someone is apparently here, but not here as well. So, okay. So I see Okay, most cameras.
I'm gonna move in
on.
really close.
Okay, I'm gonna have a countdown from 3, 2, 1. Okay, guys, you guys gotta stop commenting on the chat because the pop-up keeps disrupting the screenshot. All right. Okay.
No comments for 3 seconds.
1. Okay, next page. Okay, 3, 2, 1. And then the last page. Okay, that's like the valley of darkness. Don't really see any faces there. 3, 2, 1. All right, back to you, Casey.
Thank you, Felix. So we just got a couple announcements, and we'll let you go. So our next After Hours Uncensored Edition number 4 is happening on Wednesday, December 2nd at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, also hosted by yours truly. We have 2 partnered events with Creative Mornings San Francisco coming up in December with Joe and Joe and Lily Konings. So just stay tuned. Follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter now, and obviously we'll let you know those details real soon. And let's give a big round of applause to our special guests for today, Joe and Rania. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much for your insights. Portfolio. Again, I have to reiterate, portfolios are so damn important, and we really appreciate you guys having, just open mind and being honest with us and sharing those insights. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone who's submitting them. And they've been, here. So thank you.
Yeah. As I was rolling through, I kept seeing them come in and I'm like, I want to look at more.
Yeah.
I know there's just not enough time in the day, right?
Yeah. That could be a fun after hours. Give me a bottle of wine and we'll go through everybody's portfolio.
Let's see.
I'll join you.
Let's do it after.
I love it. Maybe we'll have a follow-up to this one. That would be great. Well, again, thank you so much, guys. And thanks everybody for joining in today. We'll see you again in December. We appreciate it. Have a great day.
Woo.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Joy, Rania.
Bye.
Hi, thank you.
Bye. Thank you for this event.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Adrian. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Cupcake
Yeah.
This is the best team.
Hey, thank you. That means a lot to us. Thank you.
Bye. DJ Felix, share your Spotify playlist.
Yeah, definitely the Spotify.
Yeah.
They're here.
Dude, you got to create an ADP list Spotify playlist, man.
Yeah.
You got to.